All right, everybody, another episode of The Art and the Artist. I am here today with Rachel Dickerson. Thank you so much for taking the time and come and talk with me.
This is the first time. Thank you,
It's all
Phil.
right.
I appreciate it. This is my first interview ever, just talking to somebody
Oh,
about me and my art. So I greatly appreciate you for
oh
taking
yeah.
time out of your day to
Oh
just.
yeah, no, of course. You know, it's funny how this kind of came together too, because you were just kind of asking online, is there any, why are there no shows with visual artists, where people could talk? And the cool thing for me at least was a couple of artists I interviewed mentioned my name, which was a great feeling, because the show doesn't work without the artists, without the artists taking me seriously. So yeah, it's awesome. They mentioned me and now we are here today. So that's awesome. All right. So let's just get right into it. Where are you from originally and where are you located now?
So it's funny. I am from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, which is a suburb in Prince George's County that hugs the DC metropolitan area. And I am currently residing in Upper Marlboro.
All right, hometown girl. No, that's beautiful. Okay. All right. So then I want to know how this all got started, right? Maybe even before you started sculpting. Okay. Were you always just an artistic person? Were you maybe even drawing before or painting? Where did we start that eventually led you to all of these great sculptures you have here?
So, I would say it actually started off with me writing. I would say let's go
Okay.
with a different lane of an art medium. So when I was about I would say 5 to 13, I would just be in school writing little fictional stories, just doing my own thing. When class would get boring, I would start doodling
Yeah.
like off to the side with my writing. So I would almost create like comic art. And
Okay.
from there, I was just like, okay, I really don't know what I want to do. So, when you get to high school, it's like you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to brand who
Yeah.
you are, and eventually that brand will lead you to college. So, I don't know, I'm pretty sure most high schools universally across the United States are like this, but you have to take an art class
Mhm.
as a requirement in order to graduate. So for me, I would say I was in 10th grade, I was 15 years old, and I took a drama class, but for some reason, it just didn't click in my head that my drama was my art class. So I signed up for drama
Ah,
and art.
okay.
And they were like, oh, you only needed one of these. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I took my first intro to art class and I had an interesting teacher. She wasn't the greatest, but I'm not going to throw her name out there. But she taught us, the fundamentals, the color wheel, principles of art, elements, and everything. Principles of design, excuse me, elements of art, and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, I don't know if it's me liking the class because all my friends were in there, or do I actually like the assignments that she's giving us? So 10th grade passed, 11th grade, they came up with a new requirement that you needed 2 art classes in order to graduate. I said, okay, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I had seen some kids that were older than me taking computer graphics, and I thought that was very interesting. So I was like, okay, I'm just trying to fulfill this requirement. I'm going to try it out. It seems pretty cool. Little did I know that computer graphics was really what launched everything for me. So computer
Okay.
graphics is essentially graphic design, just an intro graphic design class for high school students. So I'm doing my assignments, I'm doing everything. I enjoyed my teacher, Miss Bellamy. She was awesome. And she came to me because I started that class in the fall. So she came to me in November with a couple of my assignments and said, hey, Rachel, I think you're pretty good at what you're turning into me. You're understanding the programs that we're using, i.e., like Adobe Illustrator,
Okay.
Adobe Photoshop, just the basics. And I'm looking at her like, you think so? Because at the time, I wanted to be an anthropologist. So I wanted to go into that. I wanted to study demographics and everything within school
Mhm.
going forward. Because like I said, at this time I'm in 11th grade. So I'm like, girl, you said I'm good. Okay. So then she
Mhm.
started entering me into some local, just high school county art shows.
Wow,
And
that's great. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. I wasn't placing anything, but it was just like honorable mention,
Sure.
just seeing my work being like displayed within the county. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. So summer comes, I'm about to go into 12th grade, and I'm like realizing that I really do want to do graphic design going forward. I think this is pretty cool. I'm really interested in visual communication. So I, brought the idea to my mom. And because she's asking me like, what you gonna do? A lot of people are asking, what are you gonna do? Because it's time to declare a major within applying to schools.
Sure.
So I told my mom, said, hey, I don't want to do anthropology no more. I want to do graphic design. Oh my God. It was and at the time my mom was working at FAA, which is Federal Aviation Administration
Okay.
downtown. So I'm telling her, I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And she's just shooting me down. She's like, no, you're not going to be an artist. You're not going to make any money, X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z, everything. And I actually got into like a whole depressive state first half of my senior year career, because I'm like, this is something my teacher is telling me I'm good at.
Yeah.
My friends are telling me, my brother, my family. And
Yeah.
this is like, at this time, I'm just creating digital illustrations. I'm not even actually like creating visual communication.
Okay.
So I'm like, yeah, I think I could be good at this. And it's not like I wanted to specifically major in illustration. I'm telling her, I'm like, Mom, look around you, your GPS, the sign, menu,
Yeah.
everything that we survive off of literally is visual communication. We need these things. She was just like, no. So eventually my brother got through, her like family got through, and she like, understood that this is really what I wanted to do. And then I kept getting entered into like really good programs and just shows throughout the county. And what really solidified her decision was I joined National Art Honor Society my senior year. And I also had my work displayed at BWI International Airport, which is one of 3 main hub airports here in the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
So with my art being displayed up there, it took her like some notoriety of,
Yeah.
my daughter has her art displayed. And like I said, she was working at FAA. So she's like, I'm working at FAA. My daughter has, work at an airport. Oh my God.
Now she's on board.
For her to understand, like, okay, she can probably do something with this. So I ended up going to Campbell University, which is in Bowie's Creek, North Carolina. It's about 45 minutes south of Raleigh and then 30 minutes north of Fayetteville off of 95 south. And I hated Campbell. I hated it.
Really?
I mean,
why is that?
Mainly when you come from the DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia area, I'm surrounded by all Black people. I'm surrounded by people that lift me up, and that's all I knew. All of my schools, I had Black teachers, I had Black friends. So I'm so used to this. And then when I go down to the South, it's not like I'm like in Raleigh, like I said, or I'm in Greensboro, Charlotte, or Durham, where there's a fluctuant, amount of Black people.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm the minority now. So coming from a majority to a minority, my thought processes were going crazy. I was haywired. And, it's very true. You are a product of your environment. So with me having to assimilate into that area and just that culture, it did take an effect on me when I was creating. So I was just like, oh, okay, I can do this. So my freshman year, it was pretty smooth. I didn't really get into graphic design. I was pretty much doing some basic intro to art. So I was taking a painting class, my drawing class. From there, I realized I do not like to draw. It's not my thing, but painting, I really, really enjoyed painting. And my favorite medium is watercolor. I am an abstract artist. Hence, I'm not a fan of realism, just being as though you have to be really meticulous. And of course, you have to be meticulous in everything that you do.
Sure.
Being an artist and designer, but I just love the fluidity that abstract art just gives me. And I don't have to think, I just create. So I realized my freshman year of school that, this is my specialty. So I want to expand on So I didn't get into design until my sophomore year. That's pretty like straightforward. I had a South Korean professor who was like such a hard ass.
Yeah.
He like
Uh-huh.
he made me the creative that I am today, I will say.
Okay.
I would
Challenging
say
you. Yeah.
he added to it because there was a lot of things going into my art, going into design that I would just gloss over, look over. I'm like, oh, but he made me get nitty gritty and to
Mhm.
really understand the actual basics and the designs that I'm trying to get across because I'm trying to communicate. I'm not trying to just make something look pretty.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so graphic design was cool. Going into junior year, getting more into my courses. I'm taking what did I take? Oh, kinetic design, which is animation and stuff like
Okay.
that. So I do a little bit know how to animate because at one point
Okay.
it's what I wanted to get my master's in. I got accepted into Howard for animation, but I was like, I
Uh,
don't want to go to Howard.
okay. Okay.
No offense to
Well,
Howard. I was like,
that's fantastic though. Yeah. Okay. So where
So
did you eventually end up going?
I didn't get my master's yet.
Okay.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's fine.
going forward, my senior year is well, no, it was actually my junior year, my spring semester. I took on studio art as a double major.
Okay.
So in order to fulfill that, you had to take ceramics and sculpture class. So
Okay.
I said, oh, okay, like let's do this. I've never done this before. I'm the only Black girl in my class to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing everybody around me that are not Black, and they're just like creating, and they're also not art majors, they're science majors, they're
Oh, okay.
business majors, they're
Sure.
like doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, gosh, how did you guys get so good? And they're just looking at me like, well, in early education within North Carolina schools, they do provide ceramics and
Oh,
like, just
sure.
learning how to work with clay fundamentals.
Hmm.
I said, wow, PG County will never do that.
Yep.
I'm just like, that's
Wow.
amazing. So they inspired me to want to like actually really understand the medium. And of course, my professor, Mr. Tyser, I'll never forget him. He was just awesome. He was just like an awesome ceramicist. He was just making lamps, making cups, making bowls like it
Yeah.
was nothing. So I'm like, okay, I'm learning. So I got on the wheel. And I guess so. This is 2016. I got on the wheel and I'm like, oh, this is hard. So it's, I'm like, okay. So between 2016 and 2017, during my classes, I had to do the wheel. I couldn't hand build at all.
Sure. Okay.
Because that was just the requirement. So moving forward, going into my senior year, I had to do my sculpture and my ceramics 2 class. So the first one was ceramics 1. So now that I'm getting into my sculpture class, we're actually having to sculpt live models.
Okay.
So that was super hard. I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, I don't get how people were doing this back in the day. Like,
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So precisely too.
and you really have to know anatomy. And if it's like, if
Yeah.
you don't know it, then you're not going to excel in it.
Sure.
Or you can, but it'll probably be a little bit more abstract and not realistic, which was
Okay.
essentially me. So then ceramics 2 comes around and my professor finally allows me to hand build. So I eventually start hand building and I realized it's pretty cool. It's not too bad. One of my first pieces that I ever hand built was a rose. I'm sorry, I can't show it. I sold it to my friend.
Okay.
But
Well, that's
I was
good. All
like,
right.
wow, like I didn't even look at anything. I just literally just
Yeah.
felt the play and just put something together and it came out like a rose. Like, what? This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
so from there, I'm like, all right, this is super cool. And then I eventually graduated and I graduated with a graphic design and studio art dual degree. From there, so this is 2018 when I'm graduating. It was cool. I did not get a graphic design job whatsoever.
Hold on. Did you actively look for one though after you
Yes,
graduated? Oh,
because
okay.
I got accepted in Howard.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, okay, I'll work, I'll go to school and everything. And then it just got to a point where I was constantly applying. I felt my portfolio was strong,
Yeah.
but it was especially in this area and then where I'm applying to like Philadelphia, New York, Richmond. It was just super competitive at the time.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people, that's why I wanted to go get my master's. A lot of people were going straight into getting their master's right after school. So you can have that development. So when you
Sure.
get into that entry level job, you're off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
but for me, it was like, okay, I'm trying to, get a job, but then I'm thinking I do want to get my master's, but I don't have a job to keep that up. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, what do I do? So I actually I didn't have a job literally until January 2019. But after college, I would say summertime up until December, I started working at a museum here down in Washington, D.C., the
Okay.
Hirshhorn Museum. It's a modern and contemporary art museum. They don't pay you. And it was just here.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think that actually brought me a little bit more closer to sculpture, just being as though I was working about 3 times a week giving gallery tours. And when I would give gallery tours, I would have to explain the art to people, whether this is a painting, whether this is a sculpture, whether this is a drawing, whatever type of art it was. I had to get comfortable with talking about somebody else's work so the next person can understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was doing that for about 3 months. And then my mom's like,
yeah.
What are you doing?
Bringing some money.
Right. This is volunteer. How are you going to get more money? So I was like, Mom, I don't know. I'm trying. And I knew that I'm not a retail girl. I'm not a food industry girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to just work a little job just to get me by. It got to a point where I'm like, dude, I bust my ass off for this degree. I know I'm good. So I don't know why people are not hiring. I can't tell, but I'm trying. Mm-hmm. So fast forward January 2019, I finally get a job, and my job is working it's Crozier Fine Arts, and it's an art transportation job. So they're global. They're in Europe. I think there might be one in Asia, but we're universally here in the United States. And basically, whoever has the money to afford this, we will provide these services to you. And for us, being in the DC area, our big hubs and big clients were the museums, literally all the museums.
Oh, really? Okay.
Museums.
Sure. Eventually,
at the time, that's when Amazon took over. Jeff Bezos, he eventually became our client. So I was actually hands-on with a lot of work.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
By major artists in this country, major artists in this lifetime. And then it got to a point where I actually ended up working with Howard, and we were unpacking and working with old African artifacts and just stuff from Zimbabwe and Uganda with the art history professor. And I was telling her, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I want to be more hands-on with art. I told her I applied to Howard, and she was like, you applied to Howard? And she was like, why didn't you defer? And I was like, I didn't know at the time, I wanted to go, but I didn't have money, and now I have money. So so she was like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to talk to whoever your head of department is, and I want you to go to Howard. Wow. So I said, okay, cool. So it was an awesome opportunity working with her. I ended up going back to Howard for a summer, trying to figure out everything. But it kind of got to a point where I was talking to people that would have been my potential classmates and people that were about to graduate. And they were just saying it's a good program, but it's not worth your money. I said, whoa, really? That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not going to work. So I would then at the time I was just like, I don't even know if I want to do animation how I want to.
Yeah.
So just it was a lot. So in 2020, before the pandemic and everything came about, I actually had signed up for a ceramics class because our PG County Parks and Recreation offer ceramics and sculpture classes for in-county residents. So I had seen that and I said, oh my gosh, like I haven't done sculpture since I was in college and I enjoyed it. So yeah, I want to get back into it.
Hmm.
So I started my classes at a local recreational center in January of 2020. And then February 2020, they said, oh, no, ma'am, we're down. So that was a blower. Because it like I think I only made two things.
Really?
And yeah, two things at the time before they shut it down. And I was like, dang,
Oh, the
no,
county
yeah,
shut down the
yeah. The county, well,
uh
everything shut down. Moving forward, I would say 2021, they started bringing it back, but it was more like virtual. So basically, I literally like how we're talking right now,
mhm.
you would be my instructor and I would be over here with clay making
Okay,
whatever it is and you telling me what to do or whatever.
sure.
That was not fun.
No, no, no. Yeah, through a screen, yeah, there's no way you could get the sort of, instruction that you can get in person. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then on top of that, it's like I'm getting my home dirty. Like it's just a different environment versus
Uh-huh.
like actually being in a studio because of course they create studios for you to be in that environment and just to do that. But my house, no.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, this,
Okay.
I get it, but it wasn't really like it didn't help me out personally.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get it.
So still working my job. Eventually, I ended up getting laid off due to COVID.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a job. So I was just kind of creating virtually. Then somebody hit me up in July of 2021 through LinkedIn, and it was actually the National Training Center affiliated with Department of Transportation. And I ended up getting a webinar specialist job. And that was to pretty much explain that, I was working with Federal Motor Carrier, and those are the truckers,
Okay.
all the motor coaches, bus operators, pretty much. And I was working with the safety investigators and the hazmat people that were pretty much offering training to those drivers. So
Okay.
I was on the technical inside of that and everything. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I was working from home, so I wasn't mad. But while doing that, I was still sculpting virtually,
Okay.
trying to make the classes as much as I could. But eventually they started getting boring. And I was like, and I had a boyfriend at the time. So I was
Okay.
like, I was like, I'm not focused on anything. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So eventually through the pandemic, I started, because everybody was on social media, of course.
Oh, sure.
So I started making my taco illustrations. If you guys want to follow me, infinite.tacos on Instagram. And pretty much I'm half Salvadorian and
Okay.
half American. So I love tacos and I love pizza. Those are my favorite foods. And
Okay.
at the time I was just like trying to tap in more to my Hispanic culture. So I was trying
Okay.
to figure out how can I really express myself through art. So I felt as though that would be just because like I said, I wasn't focused on this. So I'm like, let me just do that.
Yeah.
So I started just making illustrations just based off people's tweets, based off whatever
Okay.
they thought was
Oh,
funny.
that's interesting. Okay.
I just would take that and make my own little rendition of it. And eventually, I mean, I don't know. At the time, I was like, oh, I want to be on Adult Swim with this. Oh, I want to eventually go back
Sure.
to animation and
Yeah.
animate this stuff. Or do I want to make a comic book? And people were telling me to make coloring books out of them. I was like,
Yeah.
I might
Mhm.
still do that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always recommend that. Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, like, all right. So that lasted. And then eventually I just got tired of that.
Uh-huh.
No. And then I made something this year, but the last time I made something was last year.
Okay.
So,
Okay. This is animation.
well, illustration.
Illustrations. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yes. So going forward as 2022 now, I'm still not sculpting. My job is still boring. We're still pandemic. And then I'm like, okay. So I eventually found a new studio and I ended up sculpting. And gosh, I was just like, I love my studio. I'm still there.
Yeah.
And I was the only one doing sculptures at the time. So It was funny
Okay.
because everybody's doing pottery, making functional things. And I remember this one girl, she was like, oh, wow, I wish I could make non-functional things, but that's just not in me. I have to make functional things. And I was like,
Mm.
you just
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to go harder 10 more
Uh-huh.
times.
Yeah. What the hell? Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I would have been
So
insulted by that. All right.
we're really cool now, which is crazy.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
at the time, I was just like, girl, you don't even know me. Your work is great. Don't get me wrong, but dang.
Yeah.
So I was just making little things, just hand building. And then that's when I realized I was like, oh, I'm going to make my Instagram a hand build. That's my name. So if you want to follow me, I hand build. So because I was just literally playing with clay, I realized the wheel's not me. It will never be me. I'm not that girl. And it hurts. If you don't have the right type of like hand coordination, if you're not pulling right, if you're not centering right, it will kill you. And
no, I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, it's very meticulous, like super meticulous. And it can just come easily for some people and others like me. No.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to do sculpting. So it started off with me being there. I'm just sculpting, just making little things. Like I was making ashtrays, just little table stuff. Yeah. I would say like maybe like I'm looking at them because I want to go get them and show you.
Yeah, go get them. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go get them. Okay, so let's see. Okay. So I'm just making like little things like this.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's just, let's see, this little sculpture right here.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you. I'm not too sure what I'm supposed to do with it, but just like, like little ashtray or little penny bowls or whatever. Yeah. Just here, just playing around with glazes. And like when the ending of that session, my first session with them, I was like, okay, this is cool, but I got to turn it up. Like, it got to a point for me, I was like, people are complimenting me on my sculptures, the little ones that I'm not too crazy about. And I'm like, this is something. So last year, I really told myself, I said, okay, after my first session, I really want to go big, go. So, and essentially that's what I started doing. And I started making bigger things. And I'm still not at my height goal with my sculptures or or anything like that, but I'm getting there. Yeah. So with that, I'm creating. I know I feel like I'm jumping around in tangents.
No. This is great. Continue.
But it all ties in. So March last year, I saw a job posting online for a graphic designer, and I was like, oh, let me see if I can do this. Like, finally, because I had given up on graphic design. I was like, and most people here, they're comfortable, even my mom, not to throw her out like that, but like most people are just comfortable with working in the government here because
that area makes sense. Yeah.
The benefits are there. You just, and we're, even now, they're not fully back into work. There's still like, I would say 75-25 remote going in.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's just people are very comfortable. Absolutely. And I told myself, I was like, and I mean, I would go back into the government, but I would have to go for a purpose. I don't want to just work for them.
Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to do the government anymore. So I saw this job for graphic design. I said, oh, I'm going for it. Yeah. So still turned out to be in transportation. And I'm just like, what's the connection here? Like, my first job out of college was transportation. My second job, I'm working with the government department of transportation. Now my third job, I'm still in transportation. So basically, it was a graphic design position for the Alexandria Transit Company, which is the local dash bus here for the city of Alexandria. So good grace God, I got the job.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, I've been working there for a year and like a month now. So I'm a graphic designer and a marketing specialist for the bus. And I think that's pretty awesome because it ties back in. Like I shot myself down. I was so sad. I'm like, I really want to do graphic design. I betrayed it. I was like, I hate you. I don't want to be with you anymore. so distraught. Like nobody believed in me. Nobody
Yeah.
wanted to go out on a whim.
Yeah.
And I appreciate my boss for considering me and just like taking the time to really get to know me, to see how much I really wanted this.
Sure.
So yes. So I work as a graphic designer. That's my full-time job. But even then, I was just like, I love graphic design. I'll never not love it. But the more and more that I was cranking these out, the more and more I was starting to go bigger. I was like, even with this, it's a raccoon. Oh gosh, this is a raccoon piece. So I did this in a pit fire almost, it just got to a point where people are coming up to me in class, complimenting me. People are saying, oh, this will look cool if it was like this or if it was like that. And it made me start thinking like, okay, I really want to do something with sculpture. And this is where getting my master's comes back in, because honestly, I want to make sculpture gardens.
Yeah.
But to really branch out and to really be more in depth with what I want to do, it's not just a random sculpture garden. I want to, so it's kind of everywhere, but if I were to go to school and figure out my thesis, it would pretty much be revisiting and looking at local parks and recreations, because parks are not the best. They are run down. They're not safe, and they're not as interactive as they should be.
Absolutely.
So this is where I want to come in and challenge parks and recreation to where I would create things to where people can enjoy them. Nature can enjoy them. Like I'm the type of person, I would want nature to come back and reclaim my art. I just want it to be so much more interactive than what we're already doing. Even if it's a rainy day, and with the weird stuff that I make, I know I can make something that hovers over where people could just go, even if they're walking their dog outside and they just need to get out of the rain.
I
want to make something that is really beneficial for them.
Yeah, that's
so
beautiful.
Thank you. It's a little conflicting because it's three things. It's sculpture, it is engineering, and it is architecture.
Yeah.
So I think right now why I'm not to say that I'm not looking at getting my master's, I'm just very confused because I do need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I do need a mentor. I need a lot of things because I feel like everything that I create right now are just little prototypes of what I could actually do in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, I want to work with bronze. I want to work with different types of elements and metals.
Yeah.
Aluminum is a great metal that I really want to work with because it's so flexible and what you create with anything with it.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's really what I want to do.
Yeah. That is.
So that's my end goal with these sculptures, because I got to a point where people were like, so what are you doing with this? And then they're like, are you ever going to have a show? I haven't had a show yet, but I want to have a show this year or next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I've just been hard on myself because I just have small pieces right now. And I'm like, I want big pieces, or I want to make a lamp. And I do want to make a lamp. So that's so it's just like, I'm in a research phase right now.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I would say within the last 8 months is the most I've ever learned about sculpture compared to when I was in school.
Sure.
But it makes sense. I'm being more like, how do I explain it? I'm more integrated into it now. I go to class at least about 3 times a week.
Okay.
Or at least I try to. Because I just want to get better. And of course, I love learning under people that know more than me. I'm a learner.
Yeah.
And then going forward, I want to teach people what I know. I don't want to be a teacher. I'm just saying.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I understand what you mean.
Because people come and ask me about my sculptures and the clay and ceramics, and I even have let people know hey, just the basics and stuff, and they ended up getting into it just on their own time as well.
Yeah.
So I love being that support if I can be, but also again while learning.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I don't know.
All right, that is fair. First of all, I just want to say,
was a lot.
no, that's perfect. These are my favorite kind of interviews. All right, I just talk. That is beautiful. I love it. All right, well, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about. A couple notes that I put down. The The first one being which I thought was hilarious. Your mom really getting on board once you had the pieces in the airport. I thought, because you know what, it makes sense, because sometimes it takes, having your stuff out there, being, presented in a certain way for not just your mom in general, but I mean, I feel like with artists, for other people on the outside looking in, not knowing all the work you're putting in, all the time you're dedicating, all the learning you have to do. And when they finally see it presented, it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. I mean, it's it's a little unfortunate, because if this is what you want to do, it's what you want to do. But having someone actually see it out and out in public changes perspectives. It's much different than seeing something sitting on your table at home, and being out at the airport and seeing your stuff displayed for every thousands of people a day to see. I thought that was awesome. And another question that I had was, when you were not finding jobs, you go to school to get this degree, and and you're having such a tough time. I mean, eventually you came back to it, but were you seriously thinking about, okay, that's maybe this is not in the cards for me. I spent all this time at school, and maybe I have to do something else. What made you was it just getting this job that kind of flipped everything around, or were you really not sure about exactly what you wanted to do?
I would say a little bit of both, because even though I never had a I didn't have a graphic design job until a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was still doing little side projects.
Okay.
So, everybody has a business.
Yeah.
So people tell me, oh, hey, can you make a business card, or can you make me a
Yeah.
logo? I'm like, no. And then, but doing that made me realize that
Mhm.
even now, I don't take any logo design clients, nothing. I don't do it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
even then, I was making little small flyers for people, just like doing little social media graphics for people. So I wasn't too like strung out, like, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Sure.
I'm not wanting to do this,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was doing little projects.
Okay.
But it eventually got to a point where I was annoyed with that too, because I didn't like the dynamic of working with people. Because
Okay.
it's like, okay, I give you a flat rate of what I'm doing. I do it, and then you want me to make changes, but you gotta understand, like, this takes time. So
Yeah.
and even then, sometimes I have to go back to the drawing board for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is gonna cost some money, and
Yeah.
I still have a life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that kind of got under my skin a little bit, because
Sure.
I just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so I think me doing my taco illustrations was the little bit that really kept me going. Because
Okay.
like I said, I was definitely like, oh, I'm gonna be in the government just like that. I'm gonna make my money like this, and maybe
Yeah.
just finagle through, maybe find a
Sure.
design job. Because there would be times my mom's working at FAA, and I'm seeing their communication specialists and what they're producing. I'm like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you would think, of course, the government is so outdated. You would think that they should be like wanting to promote better things.
Yeah. Something newer, yeah, innovative.
No.
They want the same old boring.
So I think like those kind of just kept me going. And then I'm very mental. So I'm overthinking everything. And so I'm constantly thinking about art, and I'm seeing it, especially on social media. So that was kind of pushing me, and I was constantly applying, like there was not a time you couldn't tell me that I wasn't applying to a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is all over the country. I even considered
Really?
looking at places in Europe for jobs. And I'm like,
Really?
how you gonna get out there? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just gonna figure it out.
Need a job. Yeah.
Because especially like I'm 26, I turned 27 in a couple weeks, but just being, that struggle of your early 20s, having a job, having to like to meet these like just deadlines within your brain that you set for yourself. I was very distraught, but I never like let it go too far away to where this is not going to be in my destiny. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I get it, because I mean, it's sort of what everyone's been taught, growing up. You go to college, you get a job, everything, you get married, you have a family, like everything's supposed to be on this timeline. And I will say this though, that now, even as opposed when I was, in my early 20s, that I don't know if it's, parents being okay, take your time, or if it's just the youth now who are like, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I don't, who said that this was how everyone had to live their life, how everything had to play out? Because it's just not, it's just not realistic. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of sad that, it's even still today, people think that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what my parents did, my grandparents did. This is what everyone else is doing. And if I don't do it, then maybe there's something wrong. And especially with an artist too, because it does take time. It takes, the right people to see your work. You have to take the time to sort of figure out who you are as an artist. You have to, there's just so much that goes into it that if you don't give yourself the time to actually, all right, I'm going to be serious about it, then I mean, it'll never get done. You'll be stuck in the same old cycle that, we're told that we have to complete when we're, 13, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Okay. So I want to talk about how you decided to, I know you said that, the sort of realistic, you're more of a abstract sort of artist. And I love the abstract myself. But what made you finally decide, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I like to do. I like to do these abstract pieces. And then a second part to that question is, when do you think you're going to start going bigger? And do you have any ideas about, some of the pieces that you want to do? Because I mean, I'd imagine that's the only way to go from here, because you've got these great smaller pieces, but yeah, bigger is and also bigger. I think in my, personal experience, just going to shows and stuff like that, I think it sells more, especially with the bigger galleries. So yeah, so what made you want to decide on the abstract pieces, and when do you think you'll start to, increase the size of the pieces?
Okay, so my favorite thing to really do within clay is coiling.
Okay.
So what I love about coiling is that it's very mathematical. You have to know ratios. You need to know water to clay ratio completely.
Okay.
And then on top of that, a lot of people are afraid to make coils because they're afraid of just how fragile they can be, because they can break like that.
Okay.
So I realized in college, it was one of our first assignments that we had to do was, just coil or make something out of coils. And I was like, okay, like I'm loving the feel. I have to roll them out. It feels good.
Yeah.
It's just therapeutic. Like I actually just like that. So then I'm creating things, but it wasn't until recently, I would say within like last year or so, that I've heavily been creating with coils, because I realized how much I can manipulate them. Wow. And like I said, a lot of people are afraid of that. So with me, I wanted to just like really go big or go home with it, because it's like not really big, because they're not big, but in my head, I'm just like, well, how can I really like set myself apart from the person I see on social media, or the next person that's in another studio that's, I don't know, down the street? Or even here, we have the Art League, and that's in Alexandria where I work, Alexandria, Virginia, and that's full of white people with money.
Yeah.
They know
So,
they've been doing this.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for years. These are people that are going crazy. And I'm like, I want to be like them or better. Yeah. So I had to find,
that's all right.
I had to find me within my art. And I felt as though coils just give me the fluidity that really explains me in my brain too, because like people come up to me while I'm creating with my coils, like, well, what are you doing? Or what's the goal? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really can't tell you. I just can't. Yeah. And from there, I just create these things that are just weird and just mad. And I'm just like,
I love it.
I don't know. It's like the elasticity.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you. I just love it. And then
Mhm.
it's just so much shape that you
Yeah.
can do with it.
Yeah.
It's like even this is my first porcelain piece, but it
You
was
said porcelain?
yeah, this is porcelain.
Oh, wow.
So this was coiled, but as you can see, I was like,
Wow.
okay, how can I set my coil pieces apart now? I carve
Yeah.
into them now. So like that's been my focal point is carving.
Wow. Yeah, I
But
love that
even
one.
these are fat coils.
Uh-huh.
And then I just like played with the texture just
Mm.
by smoothing them out, just going big
Yeah.
up, So it's just those are four different pieces that I showed you, but they have the
Yeah.
same element. Even
Okay. I see.
this was thick coils,
Yeah. Wow.
and I ended up just smoothing them together.
That's great.
Even down to this big one right here, like
Hmm.
these were coiled together. Can't really see it, but even in here, if you look,
Hmm.
these are coils inside, and I just wanted to smooth them out so
Yeah.
to create weirdness. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I love it.
So
Oh, that's great.
this one is a coil piece too, and
Yeah.
it's different. It's actually
Yeah. You
it's,
really, I mean, you really should be showing these. My goodness. If you were in LA, you'd be in a show right now. This is
I've
a
never been to LA, and that's why I'm like I'm trying. I have so many friends in LA, and I need to just get out there.
it's a
And
nice art scene. Yeah.
I know
No,
because
you should be. There's for me personally, all right. If I like, in this scenario, if I own a gallery and I'm calling you. Those are show worthy pieces, really. Honestly, I'm not just trying to gas you up. Those are great. Um,
I'm trying
I'm
to think.
dead serious. Yeah.
Thank you. So I hope I answered the first question right.
No, no, yeah, no, okay, yeah,
But I would say just me being able to like really identify like, okay, this is usually my start approach. And then I know
Mhm.
I want this. Sometimes I do have an idea, but most of the times I just know my end approach will be whatever I
Okay,
do once I start my coils.
okay, okay. I've got a question then. When you get everything ready, you're about to start on a piece. Okay, so you're saying you don't know exactly where it's going, but are there outside factors that maybe affect that? Maybe it's the way you're feeling, maybe it's maybe you're listening to music when you do this. But you're in a studio with other artists usually when you're creating, or is okay, so does even that have an effect on what you create? Just having people around, because I know from talking to other artists, it's usually, it's funny. Usually it's the ceramic artists that are, in a big studio with other artists. But a lot of artists like to work in isolation. They like, the quiet. They like to just kind of be by themselves and their thoughts. So does any of that affect or maybe influence what you're creating? Or it really is, okay, I'm just going to start now and let's kind of see where this goes.
It's really a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because sometimes I would say, how many of us are in there? It's about seven of us in there.
Okay.
But I'm the only one that works at the table.
Okay.
Everybody is off in the wheels, but we have
Oh, sure, sure.
open conversation all the time.
Yeah.
It's like we'll literally just start talking about our day, and I'll just start
Yeah.
talking. And
Okay.
I'm like, but
Uh-huh.
not this session because my professor is not my professor, my instructor.
Mhm.
He's teaching another class, but he's a Native American and he's
Okay.
from Canada.
Okay.
So he definitely he's crazy, but he
Mhm.
influences me a lot, whether
Yeah.
he knows it or not, because
Mhm.
he his main I would say his main focal point is pottery, but
Okay.
he also has made sculptures as well too. And a lot of his sculptures are like tied into like Native American society and
Mhm.
culture. So I would think just a little bit, just like how he goes about like not because honestly, I don't even think he even thinks about things. I think he just does it. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that has like prompted me to be like, oh, I see that Jeremy just does his
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's one thing. Sometimes I have this peer named Don. He comes up to me. He's like, wow, Rachel, like, your work reminds me of like intergalactic, or I could see it
Mhm.
like outer space or something.
Yeah.
And that kind of like triggers me, at least with my glazes. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, I want to go with like just a fun, I don't know, like with this one, it's like Starry Night. You can't see it, but it's like Starry
Oh,
Night.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I'm like, ooh, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
There will be some times where somebody will come up to me and be like, oh, hey, I think you should do, like, if I'm already starting to create something and they might
Mhm.
see a little bit of it, like, oh, hey, I think you should do this with it, or I think you should go
Yeah.
this type of direction. And maybe not all the time I'll take their advice or their suggestions, but
Yeah.
I'll think about it to say,
Yeah.
okay. Because I wasn't thinking, you were.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. Yeah. It's good to have that that sort of support out there. And also to be willing to take advice, because a lot of people, it's if someone suggests something, it's like, oh, no, like this is,
Yep.
this, I'm doing whatever I want. But to be able to say, to take someone's consideration and think, okay, maybe that'll work. I mean, I think that's, that's sort of a big thing. But I wanted to talk about colors. You kind of touched on it. Do you pick the colors out, maybe midway through, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, this is the hue I'm going for, the color scheme I'm going for, or is it once you've got it all done? And also, is the color really a big part of the process? Is it just, okay, I just kind of like the way this looks, let's try this color?
Well, so it can definitely first start off with the clay.
Yeah.
Because when I was in college, I was only working with red clay.
Oh, okay.
So I felt like a lot of my college pieces, the colors were very muted and
No,
dull
sure. Yeah.
due to the clay that I was working with.
Hmm.
And also, we were taught the chemical production of the glazes that we were working with,
Okay.
but we were also just working with a lot of underglazes.
Okay.
So all my pieces here are not underglazed at all. These are
Oh, I see.
complicated high fire glazes.
Sure.
So of course, the higher it goes, the more elements are brought out of the piece, and you can
Yeah.
see the colors and how they actually do the chemical process.
Okay.
So going forward, with my stuff, of course, studios, again, they make their own glazes.
Hmm.
And it got to a point for me where I was like, I don't like none of these glazes. Like,
Yeah.
they're just not me. And it's crazy because you could look at people that are in my studio and their pieces, you would think, why aren't you working with these glazes? But it's just those glazes work for them because they're working with and making bowls, they're making plates,
Sure.
they're making
Yeah.
vases. It makes sense for
Yeah.
those glazes to be with, however people are creating with them. So I order my own glazes through Dick Blick, and more specifically, the brand that I use is Mako Stoneware Glazes. And Mako, they're going crazy. I can't
Yeah.
explain how they're making the
Okay.
pieces they're
Yeah.
making, but the rich colors are what draw me the most to them.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. But then the second thing, none of these pieces or any of my pieces that I've created have one glaze.
Okay.
My thing, I always like to do glaze combinations just because I'm interested in just the craziness. And then on top of that, like I said, we're working with chemicals. So you don't know what fire and what the chemicals are going to do once they're brought together.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's such a crazy experience. I wish I could just be there in the kiln, not, being burned alive to see how it goes. But there was a point where I'm just like, I literally only want to focus on galaxy-like themes.
Yeah.
Pieces. So I did that. Then I was like, especially right now, I'm trying to branch out and do more brights. I don't really like red, pink, or orange but I do feel as though I should be open to that with creating because most of my pieces are blue. And I'm like, if I want this to be in somebody's home, I have to, think about
Sure.
colors.
Yeah.
Like I can't be too selfish with this.
Yeah.
Trying to think about others. So I would say that definitely takes a role, but I'm usually not figuring this out until it actually does depend on the piece though. But so for this one, I knew I wanted it to be red. So even before it was bisque, which is the first process of it going into the kiln, I was like, oh, okay, I know this is red. But majority of everything else, it's not until it's actually bisque where I'm like sitting there looking at the piece and it's looking at me and it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I might say, I might want these colors together. I might want
Mm-hmm.
these colors together. So that's usually the process with choosing the glazes.
Okay.
It's just random.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I dig that. Okay. I've got a question about when you're back in college, right? So, you say you get there and you know what? I understand this sort of feeling of getting to school and being like, oh no, there are no black people. Like what is going on? That's my high school experience in a nutshell. But do you think that being placed in that environment maybe not ideal once you first get there, it can be. I know how I felt. It was, I wouldn't say, like uncomfortable or scared, but it's just, it's hard to relate to people who have no idea how your
Right.
life is, right? Like how you've lived. I mean, it turned out great for me in the end, but do you think that experience affected how you create in a good or a bad way? Do you think that maybe what you produce now, it might not have come out the same way if you were in a more comfortable environment, if you weren't made to feel a little bit out of place?
That's a great question. Um, I would say a little bit of both.
Mhm.
Mainly because like when I was in school, while I was the only Black girl in majority of my classes,
Mhm.
I still my major, like the people in my major were very small. So it was only like
Mhm.
six of us at the most.
Okay.
I, six.
Yeah.
But we were still a very diverse group. So
Okay.
it was me, a Black girl, Hakeem was Black,
Mhm.
Shiloh was Puerto Rican, Matt was white, Jessica's white. I'm missing one more person, but they weren't white. I can't
Yeah.
remember. But I think, oh, Jaren was Filipino. And I'm
Okay.
like,
All right.
oh, I think us just being ourselves and really just helping each other out, just
Mhm.
off of what we know, what we were like just educated on, just brought us together to where, yes, I was the only Black person, and sometimes I was reminded of that, but
Yeah.
it didn't entirely affect me when it came to creating
Okay.
because
Okay.
I'm just like literally we would help each other out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially, like I said, my professor, he was such a hard ass.
Yeah.
So I wasn't the only one going through everything. We
Sure.
all
Oh,
were.
okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're all just trying to make sure, that we pick each other up to be great. Because even when we're like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the studio, we never let
Yeah.
anybody be by themselves, knowing our assignment was due at 9 a.m. the next day. Well, the same day, literally. So.
Yeah.
So I would say, gosh, yeah, it was definitely like a little bit of both. I didn't have more time then to create
Mhm.
as much because I was focused on graphic design. I mean, I'm still doing
Sure.
that now,
Yeah.
but it's I'm meeting different deadlines. I'm in
I
school
see. Yeah.
versus my job now.
Okay.
And but even now at my studio, I'm still the only Black girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um I do have one girl with me, and she's mixed as well, but she is white and Black.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I mean, yes,
Yeah.
you know how that is.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than that, I'm still the only Black girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it like being around diverse environments
Mhm.
definitely makes it harder,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say.
Mhm.
Just being as though like when I was in school, yeah, I was the only Black girl, but I felt like my professors were always coming to me like, hey, you want to do this opportunity? Hey, you want to do
Yeah.
this opportunity? And I felt like very involved in school where it got to a point where I started working with some of the librarians, and the librarian just had my work displayed last
Mm.
year at
Yeah.
school in the library
Yeah.
that he bought for me at my show. And I'm like, bruh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
That was the first
Yeah.
time going back to school since I graduated last year. So that was
Yeah.
4 years. So
Uh-huh.
it was just me just being myself. and I'm gonna be a Black woman till the day I die.
Yeah.
So
That's right. Okay. That's
so
awesome.
it's like,
Yeah.
it just I don't know if I answered that. It's
No,
hard.
no, no. Yeah. No, I got it. Yeah. It's funny too. Cause all right. So one of the artists that tagged me in your post is a dude named E-Man out of New York, right? Yeah. And yeah.
Love him.
Oh, he's the best, right? Yeah, he was one of my first, gosh, I want to say 5 interviews I ever did. He was somewhere right in the beginning. And I remember we had talked about, sculpting, maybe, people from, certain areas not being just exposed to it, not knowing that this is something, that they could do. Do you think that given the opportunity, given, a studio to work at, some instruction, that this could be a more popular form of art amongst minorities?
Heck yeah. And so, which is surprising though, I can't speak on anybody else or anywhere else but here.
Yeah.
I didn't know that so many people did sculpting
Yeah.
as minorities until I really started doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I am only one of few Black girls in my class.
Yeah.
But last year, during my second session, this older man named Londell Campbell, if you guys want to follow him, Londell Unique Ceramics on Instagram. Londell, Londale.
Okay.
He's Jamaican. And he is like, I don't know how old Londell is. I'm going to say he's 67 or he's in his 60s.
Okay.
And this man makes some of the best art I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy because just talking to him and just his experience in Jamaica, then coming over here and then just like integrating here and then learning people and this, that, and the other and working with people, he exposed me to a lot of people in this area that have done art. And then my studio, they host, because like I said, we're in Prince George's County. Prince George's County is the wealthiest Black area. Okay. I can't speak on other ones, but I'm going to brag about mine.
Yeah.
The wealthiest Black areas in this country.
Okay.
So we have, it's so much going on. So we have constant shows. So I was at a show and I just happened to have this piece right here and this piece displayed.
Okay.
They're like twins. But anyways, I had them displayed just like as a little student exhibition. And like main artists were displaying their work too. Of course, they were white. But this Black lady, she was walking around, one of few Black people that are actually there. And she was walking around and she came up to me and she was like, "Oh, is your art like displayed anywhere?" And I was like, because I was going around just talking to people. Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, my art's right here if you want to come see it." My 2 little pieces. And she was like, "Wow." And then she started talking to me and I was telling her what I want to do, basically what we're talking about. Sculpture gardens and everything. And she was like, "I think," she's in my notes. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. No, that's in November. But she was like, "Yeah, there's this sculptor, Black lady from DC that's like very prominent in the area. And like I would benefit working with her and stuff like that." And I was like, dang, like, this is cool. Just like to have a Black lady just talk to me about it and just like prompt me. And even when I was in New York over the weekend, I had met one of my friend's mom's friends, and she's an artist of 40 years, and she was asking me about my stuff, and she was just giving me advice and stuff. The Black lady to a young Black. So I don't think, at least not here, and not in my type of interactions with my life so far, have I had any type of trouble or any just like, "Oh, I don't see myself progressing within it because of my minority." No, I think it's the opposite. It's funny. It's for me, it was, if I wanted to find, and I love all artists, right, from everywhere, but to find Black artists, like you have to go to work, right? Like at a certain point. Now with me, I mean, with just being online and the algorithm, it's for me, if I'm like on Twitter or Instagram, it's everywhere.
But and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to, get the show going, was because of that. Ask anyone to name 10 artists, right? Even someone that loves art, right? They would name one Black artist and it would be Basquiat, right? That would be the only one they knew, right? Because
Right.
it's the only one people know that really aren't into it. So that was sort of my goal. With just artists in general, because I feel like being an artist is important, right? It's important to a society. I think it's what makes one of the things that makes us human, right? And so even just for me to have you on, for you to come on here, and talk to me, it's such a beautiful thing, man. It just this was, I still have a regular job, which I hope to one day, just do this full time. But it's been fantastic, to meet artists such as yourself, who, maybe someone will see this interview and be inspired by what you do. You know what I mean? So it's beautiful. Okay, so would you say then that you've got a very supportive sort of network of art-minded people around you, or would you say you get more support from the people you meet online? Because that's how I find a lot of the artists that I interview is that's kind of how we got connected. But do you feel it more with the community of artists you meet online, or more so with the people that you've met, just out in your community?
Definitely online.
Yeah.
Not to say I hate to say that, but
Yeah.
it's the truth.
Yeah.
Mainly because like people that know me know what I do.
Yeah.
There are some people that are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Sell this. And then there are some people like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But they mainly look at my main job as a graphic designer. They're like, oh,
Sure.
you're a graphic designer.
Oh,
And I'm like,
I see.
I am, but I
Yeah.
had to tell my boss a couple months ago, because we were interviewing sidebar, but we were interviewing for a new manager.
Mhm.
And she asked me, she was just like, oh, so what do you like to do? Tell me about yourself. And I tell her, and I'm like, oh, I do sculpture. She's like, oh my God. So I tell her, yeah, this is what I want to do. And my boss looks at me like, dang, Rachel, when were you going to tell me this?
Oh, didn't even know.
He didn't know. And I was like, dang, I mean, it was eventually going to come out when I left the job. But
yeah. Uh-huh.
So I will say, like, when I first really meet people, because especially since 2023 has started, I've met all range of people.
Yeah.
Different colors, different nationalities, minorities, ethnicities. And I tell them what I do and I show them my Instagram. They're like,
yeah,
this is so cool. And I'm like, it makes my heart warm. And I'm like, thank you. But I will say the online presence has definitely been there.
Yeah.
Because just with people, I don't, like E-Man, like him retweeting my art all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a solid dude too, man.
Right. And I'm just like, you don't even have to do this. Like, I don't even know how we even got connected. I think one day I just followed him because I seen his artwork and I'm like, wow. So it's just been like little things like that. And I would say, honestly, with him promoting my art has gotten me a lot of views.
Yeah.
And just like a lot of comments or just people.
That's dope. That's dope.
And I can't be mad at an online presence because it makes me feel good. Like, especially, I would say me by myself with pushing it has been on TikTok. Because TikTok goes crazy. I figured out my times. I figured out the algorithms. Okay. Posts. And from there, especially within the last 5 months, my work definitely is the best compared to like everybody else. But I have my little 3,000 organic likes from TikTok. And I'm
that's
like,
what's up.
Somebody out here.
You see, but you know what? That's the beauty of the internet. You know what I mean? 20 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe the people around you see your work, but now it's, people from all over the world, just we're on opposite sides of the country and we're talking right now, you know what I mean? And it's such a beautiful thing. And that's why, for me personally, it's so exciting to see there's a new sort of generation of artists because they're so supportive. they're, they help each other. Like we are talking about just email in general, right? Like you guys do not exactly the same thing, but you both are, you both do sculptures. And for him to, to tweet out your stuff, to retweet, to like, and I mean, and shout out to E-Man, because when I had first started this, he retweeted every time I posted, every time I had, an interview or something like that, he's retweeting it and liking all the stuff, you know what I mean? So that sort of interaction and engagement like that is what really, I think, sets apart this new generation of artists and artists from, past generations. It's that back then you really had to look out for yourself, right? You had to, it had to be about you, because no one else was going to help you. You guys are all fighting to get into this, especially if you lived in an area, to get in the same galleries, to get in the same shows. But now you can post on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, and it reaches so many different eyes and so many different people. Like, you never know when someone is just going to come across your work and want to buy it. You know what I mean? So it's fantastic. The online presence for artists has been, I mean, in my opinion, maybe one of the biggest innovations and art in not even to speak on this particular medium, but just for people to be able to see your work and see all the dedication and that you put into your craft. It's it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. All right, I want to talk about all right, so the pieces, let's talk about the ones you have here on the table.
There's some down here.
Oh yeah, these are great. These are fantastic. Okay, I got a couple questions. All right.
Okay.
Oh, hold on, wait. No, before I ask the first question I wanted to ask, do you have a website where you sell pieces? Okay, all right.
My Instagram, my hand build.
Okay, all right. That was, I just wanted to know, because I think that maybe not a standalone or something where people can buy your work, I think would be beneficial for you. But my original question was, are these just sort of standalone pieces? You ever thought about making a series, maybe centered around a certain theme, or are they all kind of one of ones?
A little bit of both, because people have came to me, like my peers. So, for example, my galactic pieces are like, oh my God, like, for example, like this one, because I use galaxy like themes and stuff like that. So they're like, oh, why don't you just make a series of like weird shapes that look like they could be on a planet, but with intergalactic glaze theme? And I was like, okay, so I have about 1, 2, 3. So this would be like, let me see. This would be like my third one, something like this.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Thank you. That's it for that one. Yeah, that's it for these. So yeah, they've asked me like, why don't you do that? And I was like, oh, I should do that, but I'm so scatterbrained. I start and then I'm like, frick it. I just want to do something else. So I would say my shapes are there. So like, okay, I showed you this one, but I would say this shape kind of can mimic it a little bit. Colors are different, but just the smoothing of everything and just so it's like they have the same theme wise when it comes to creativity, but in the end, here's like another one. I'm like my celestial. Yeah, I would say that was an idea, but it never like was never fluid with it. Like this one is so random. This is a standalone. You would put a candle in it. So when you put a candle in it, it'll like, you can see the shadow. I don't even know. This is totally standalone. Like it's like a little bit.
I dig it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. All right. So you've done like student shows before, right? Have you?
I've only had one student show my senior year. We had to do a senior exhibition and I had 75 pieces.
Okay. Oh, well, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. Okay. All right. So looking into the future then, have you started maybe applying for different shows or sending your work to different galleries yet?
I did do one this year. I wasn't selected. Wish I can remember the name, but it was a gallery in Atlanta that was
Okay.
doing an open artist call for small ceramic pieces, and I had submitted this bad boy into it.
Okay.
But it wasn't selected. It made me think maybe because I'm outside of the area, and I
Mm.
felt like most of the people that were selected, because they showed the lineup eventually of all
Oh,
of these
sure. Like
concerts.
locals. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were locals. Because even then I was a little worried, like if I was selected, I wouldn't want to ship this down there. I would want to personally deliver it,
Sure. Yeah.
because this one is
Uh,
really
yeah.
fragile.
Yeah.
This is more, I would say my raku pieces are more pieces that reflect metal
Oh, sure.
more
Yeah.
so than the actual like glazes. So
Uh-huh.
I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that. I recently started following this Instagram page called Art Girl Rising,
Okay.
and they pretty much just offer all types of opportunities.
Okay.
Open artist call for those wanting to enter. So I'm going to take those a little bit more seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't done any local research, and I will say that's where it kind of gets a little locally.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
super competitive, and it's
Yeah.
like you have to be super established in somebody's eyes in order to get
Yeah.
where you here. You got to really know.
Okay. Okay.
It's
All right. Yeah. All right. I want to talk about that for a second. Okay. A lot of times it's who you know. It's who
yep.
you know, who are you affiliated with?
And
So
I'm trying
you've
to get a mentor. I'm
yeah.
trying.
Okay. So you have you already experienced some of that then? Maybe trying to talk to people or trying to get into shows locally that it's I just don't know the right people right now.
Yes, because at first it was, let me see if I can actually show them now. Because at first, before my sculptures, it was my illustrations. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I
Yeah.
know my illustrations are decent enough. So I
Yeah.
don't see why they couldn't possibly be, let's see. So let me see if this one will come up. It's not, so for example,
Okay.
okay,
Oh, I like the
but these
setup
are
you got here. Okay.
fair play.
Uh-huh.
But you can't really see, okay, you can kind of see it,
Yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
these are all dots, and I just like
Okay.
made me reflect on like back in the day with Roy Lichtenstein and all
Sure.
his
Yeah. Yeah.
work. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
take that role on pop art, and
Yeah.
then let's see, like I don't know, the this is kind of, you can't really see the colors.
Okay. Do you have these online on Instagram?
No, they're not on Instagram because I
Okay.
changed my Instagram to mainly
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah. Sculptures.
my
Yeah.
handle
Okay.
page.
I was gonna
But
think. I didn't see that. Okay. All right.
and then like the painting from college, you can't even see it. I'm sorry. It's like
That's all right. That's all right.
but yeah, so it was like the little things that I do have here. I
Hmm.
was more like adamant, like I want to put these into a show. Um,
Hmm.
and I still do. But now that I have these,
Hmm.
it kind of, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I haven't really pitched my sculptures. I went to New York this past weekend, like I said earlier, and I wanted to do that at
Yeah.
this local boutique in Brooklyn, but I just didn't have the time to do it. But I'm
Okay.
probably going
Sure.
to still try to do that before the summer is over.
Okay.
Um, because I think my stuff is weird enough. I think
I
somebody.
think it's I think it's ready to be in a show right now. You know, if it was up to I really do. Okay. Do you see a time where you're a full-time artist when this is the only thing you do?
So I think if I go to school,
Okay.
and it's not even if I go to school, because I'm considering doing an art residency
Yeah.
next year. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look at places this year so I can apply by next year.
Sure.
Um, because if what I was thinking, it's so hard because I want to go to school.
Hmm.
Options that I was thinking about are Virginia Commonwealth University down in Richmond.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, if I keep my job,
Yeah.
I'll just, try to be in
Sure.
Richmond, just
Yeah.
travel up to Northern Virginia if I can and work out that schedule. That's
Okay.
that. The only other school I possibly have considered was MICA, Maryland Institute College of Art, but that's in Baltimore.
Okay.
Baltimore is an hour away from me.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
to work
Yeah.
in Virginia, and do Baltimore, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with what I want to do, it's like you either go to school or you give up your job, because
Yeah.
it's too hands-on, and especially with
Yeah.
what I want to do. So that's where a residency possibly comes in, because I was thinking, if I constantly do art residencies, especially if I'm working under an artist that I really do enjoy,
Mhm.
I can have years, because my goal honestly is 30. People are like, oh, don't put an age limit or a boundary
Mhm.
or whatever, but for me it's 30. I literally will have 3 years to have worked and
Mhm.
really just think about and research the things that can really get me to where I am
Yeah.
creating full time. And
Sure.
essentially, I do create full time. I'm just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
creating for myself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I'm thinking, like, if I do an art residency again, work under the artists that I want to work with and build relationships and
Mhm.
can network with people. I do think that can really get me in the places
Yeah.
and in the environments that I really want to be in.
Okay.
Because if I don't go to school, maybe this residency and whoever I'm working with can give me the opportunity to still work with elements that I'm
Yeah.
not too comfortable with, or I'm just not able to regularly work in the space that I can on a normal basis, but they
Okay.
will provide that for me.
Okay.
So I have my options open.
Okay.
School is just like, eh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
residencies are more on my top tier of the actual actions to take,
Yeah. Okay.
um, to go about.
Okay. All right. All right. Interesting. Would you say that sculpting and just creating for yourself is more fulfilling than, let's say, you just get an assignment at your job, something that you can do, something you went to school for, it's not going to be a problem, and then completing that, which one to you just, yeah, like, yeah, it's just a more fulfilling process when you get to the end of it? Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely sculpture. Don't get me wrong.
Uh-huh.
The thing with what I do, and I think any graphic designer can attest to this, whether you're working for yourself,
Mhm.
government, corporate, private, whoever, it's very stressful.
Yeah.
I would say this is the most stress I've ever experienced in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working with my job, just being as though and I had to reflect on it about 3 weeks ago, because when I kept having to like tell you about the times and we were, trying to
Sure.
establish this, we just had a new metro station open up.
Okay.
So that is very crazy. Like I'm meeting deadlines,
Yeah.
realizing how important I am as a person and in my role, because the things that I'm designing and creating are going to go out to the masses.
Yeah.
Like, we
Yeah.
serve about 4 million people,
Yeah. Sure.
literally
Jeez. Yeah.
getting on the bus. And then on top of that, we're the only transit system in the area that's free. No,
Oh,
I can't even say anybody on the East Coast
wow.
has
That's fantastic.
free. Right.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is.
Free public transportation.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm constantly creating things all the time, and I'm
Sure.
stressed. I'm
Yeah.
super stressed. And
Yeah.
I'm a perfectionist on top of that. So it's
Oh,
like
okay.
I gotta make things perfect because I want the visual communication to relate to whoever is reading this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and there's times where I'm at my job, because I have some of my art at my job, and I'm just looking
Mhm.
up. I wish I was sculpting.
One day.
Um,
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
have a hybrid schedule. So on Wednesdays, Monday and Wednesdays, I work from home. Wednesdays, I go to class. And I told my boss, I was like, you can't make me come in and work on a Wednesday. You just can't do it. Just because,
Yeah.
not like that, but the traffic is just crazy
Sure.
getting off by the time where I need to go, which is almost near Baltimore.
Okay.
So we're on totally opposite spectrums. So it's just like Wednesdays are my favorite days of the week. They always been, but it's even more heightened because I go in.
Yeah.
No, well, I wake up knowing, oh, I'm going to class today, unless it's like canceled. But
Uh-huh.
I love sculpture just because in the
Yeah.
end, like, damn, I made that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
then and when I know people look at my work and be like, dang, you did that, and I'm like, I did.
Yeah.
It's just, and my heart is just warm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, I understand. Okay. Hold on. What was I going to ask you? I always wrote down a bunch of crap and my handwriting is so bad. Okay, yeah, all right. I remember. So full-time job, and then you're also sculpting and going to class for sculpting. Stressful job. How do you manage the time to, all right, I know, okay, I'm working this amount of hours for the week. I
Right.
have this amount of time to sculpt and and go to class. How do you find the time for yourself? And is it how do I phrase this question? Do you have, okay, basically, do you have time for yourself? Do you have time to have a life? And does that sort of just the work and sculpting, does that kind of leave you burnt out at the end of the week?
No, just like
Yeah.
yes and no.
Okay.
I'm always running on a mile a minute
Okay.
personally. Like there are times when, especially on Tuesdays, I'll come home from work. What do I work? Let's say like 9 to 5.
Okay.
I work from home on Wednesday, knowing I have to be up by like, I don't know, let's say 8, between 8 and 8:30. But I
Okay.
will stay up until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
sculpting, working on a car. He's like,
Yeah.
some people would look at me and say, "Oh, you're burned out," and I'm like, "No," because in between that time, like I'll probably be like, "Hey, I need to do this," or "I need to dedicate time on this," and then the next day I'm in the gym, and then the next day I'll hit up my friends like, "Hey, let's go get a drink,"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or even then if they're not available, I just hang out by myself. Like
Yeah.
I think right now has been the most within the last 2 years has been the most I focused on myself
Yeah.
and my art. I'm not
Oh,
in a
that's great.
relationship. I don't
Yeah.
have a kid. I'm, I
Yeah.
still live with my mom because it's
Yeah.
crazy out here in this world. I mean, trying to move out soon. But yeah, so it's kind of like really my hassles are paying bills,
Yeah.
small ones.
Yeah.
And so I've been okay. Like if my friends want to hang out, cool. If they
Yeah.
don't, I'll
Yeah.
just stay home and work on my art.
Yeah.
That's not the case. I'll just hang out on my own.
Yeah.
Or yeah, so I don't sometimes, yeah, I do feel burnt out, especially within the last month. I have felt a little burnt out because
Okay.
of my deadlines. But I don't let that like really affect me. The most that somebody can say is like, "Oh, you look tired."
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know that. You're telling me something,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get up and do it again. Like,
Absolutely. That is fantastic. Okay. All
and I
right.
feel also
Oh
me
no, go
being
ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just gonna say if it was a burnout, it would be a burnout in all great ways.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. This has been a good interview. All right. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but there's a couple questions I gotta ask at the
You
end.
just ask them. We're good. I'm good.
Okay. So there's just questions I like to ask every artist at the end of the interview.
Of course.
If there is a place that you could go, let's say, all right, you've got, I don't know, 4 months off, right? You can
Mhm.
go anywhere in the world to create and be inspired. Where would you go?
That's a great question. I think, do I have to have one place?
No, you got multiple places, sure.
Okay, so personally, if I'm gonna go, I'm just pinpointing. If I'm
Mhm.
gonna go to Europe, I
Okay.
want to be in the Spanish countryside,
Okay.
just like in an open field, really like
Yeah.
doing with what I do, because I mean, technically my roots are Spain.
Yeah.
So I feel that energy.
Okay.
If I'm gonna go out to Asia, I want to be in South Korea,
Okay.
just because though I had my professor and then I've met people from South Korea and I like the environment over there and I just like
Yeah.
the technicality. I like how they
Mhm.
operate. Um, of course, if I'm here in the States, I probably want to be somewhere like either New Mexico or
Mhm.
Washington. I
Okay.
know they're totally different,
Yeah.
but if I'm going to be in some type of dry heat and just being around ancestry within
Yeah.
American
Interesting.
roots, I really want
Yeah.
to feel that energy. And then even then, it's still the same because Native Americans, you feel the energy here all over,
Yeah.
especially here in my area.
Yeah.
Um, but if I want to get out of my area, I'm gonna go up there. And I do think
Okay.
like just being in nature definitely helps
Yeah.
me, eases my mind to
Yeah.
where I'm just not thinking about too much in the world. I feel at ease.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna go down south, down past the border. Of course, definitely say El Salvador because it's where my family is
Yeah.
from. But if we're going a little bit past that, I would want to be definitely in Peru.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
just I love the culture.
Yeah.
And just me learning about the Native American down there
Sure.
is just like it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
built so many empires out of like what? And I
Yeah.
think that's what invigorates me because the places that I really would visit, the mediums that a lot of them were working with back in the day were ceramics and
Yes.
sculptures. So
Absolutely.
it just makes my heart warm to know like this environment was once here and I know
Yeah.
it would just like trigger me to go crazy.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. You know what? It's all right. So I'm I love history, right? Like I'm sort of a, like a nerd when it comes to that kind of stuff. And the thing that I love about sculptors, and I mean just sculptors in general, right? When we're, learning about a civilization, I mean, it could be any civilization, right?
mhm.
The one thing that we always find is art and, sculptures, pottery, stuff like that. We know so much about that aspect of past civilizations just because of the art we've dug up from out of the ground. So, I mean, it's a good, like I said, it's one of the things that makes us human is art. And to have that sort of lineage of, ancient sculptures from thousands of years ago, man, and up until what you're doing right now, it's important. It's absolutely important.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's like you have some civilizations that were working with porcelain. You have
Yeah.
African civilizations that were working with wood. You
Yeah.
have some civilizations in South America working with terracotta.
Yeah.
So it's just like
Yeah.
literally, and I think that's what I love about sculpture. And I'll tell anybody this, and I'm telling you, you're truly one with the earth. I
Mhm.
cannot take that away from what I do because
Yeah.
I'm feeling this in my hands. I'm just doing the best that I can with the God-given talent that He's given me.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing it. I can't explain it, but you gonna feel it though.
Yeah. 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 Man, I love that. All right. Okay. All right. This has really been a fantastic interview. These are the easy ones, when I don't have to pull things out of you. All right. All right. Final question then.
Okay.
Is there a piece of advice that you would give to a young up and coming artist that you wish that you had, or that you wish that someone had told you when you were starting?
Hmm. Phew. Um, so there was one, I felt this is a little bit more on the graphic design side, but
Okay.
I do think it can be applied like universally within any medium. But one quote that I like found when I was younger that I kind of stuck by was good artists copy, great artists steal. So
Okay.
I would say, and I live with that because mainly because especially with what we're living in, we're in an age of social media.
Yeah.
It's it's not far fetched for somebody to create something just like you. It's
Oh yeah.
not far fetched for somebody to just pick up and start doing something after 5 months and you've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is,
That's true. Yeah.
but
Uh,
never let that deter you or stray you away from your passions because I let that happen to me when
mm,
I was designing early on, like, 17 through 20. I'm seeing people just like me from the area getting recognitions from stores
yeah.
like Urban Outfitters.
Yeah.
They're having art shows. They're doing all this, and I haven't even. The only art show I've ever had was in college.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was a requirement, so it was kind of like I beat myself up a lot, and then I constantly remembered that quote because I'm like, I got to keep going.
Yeah.
Whether this is me taking an approach of how they did it, and this is not even entirely having to do with art, just the implementary actions of going about. No matter what, just keep doing it. Like I lost myself, but I never lost art within me.
Yeah.
Like, and that was me, you know, I did graphic design, I was painting, I was doing my illustrations.
Yeah.
I eventually did drawing here and there, but I didn't like it. Then I started picking up ceramics. I made little ashtrays. And from ashtrays, I said, no, I want to make sculptures. And then from there, now I want to do possibly 3D installations. I want to make sculpture gardens. Like, the horizon is so big, but only if you allow it to be.
Yeah.
So I would just say, again, I mean, I know it's cliche, keep going, but it's literally keep going. Like, I started this when I was 15. I turned 27 in 2 weeks. Like, it doesn't get any better. And I've already set up goals. I'm not even at the certain ages that I've pinpointed in my brain of what I want to accomplish at this age. But I know I'm going to do it, whether, because, you know, and we see this, some people get that recognition right now in their 20s. Some people might not even get recognized until they're 60.
Yeah.
I'm going to remain hopeful always, but I'm never going to stop creating, because there's been constant people, especially older people, that will come to me and be like, dang, like, I wish I was still doing this, or dang, I was doing this at this age and I just stopped. And then now I'm revisiting it again. I don't ever want to be that person. I'm never going to stop. And I want them to know, don't ever stop. Just keep going. You might be a little delayed, but you're never far away.
Yeah. It's funny how many artists give that same answer. Just don't stop. Just keep going. Yeah. You're right.
Because if you stop, you're gonna be those people who are talking like, No, and we have, like, I think the best thing that we have is freedom.
Yes.
So take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Do the damn thing. And just keep going.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you only live once, you know, you don't want to be, you know, 10 years down the line telling ghost stories about what could have been or what you used to do, you know, just do it. Yeah. All right. I couldn't agree more. All right. Thank you again for your time, everybody. Rachel Dickerson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, and what is the best place for people to find you and find your work?
Okay, the best place will be both Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Twitter is a little bit more personal, but I will say, I think that's where I get my most engagement. So Twitter will be at $13, DOLLAS. And then my TikTok is I hand build, and it's the same on Instagram as well. I hand build. Follow us, so we will not disappoint.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna put all that stuff on the screen too when I do the interview. All right. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Like, I can't stop smiling. Thank you.
And like I said earlier, I think what you have is ready to go. It is only a matter of time. I believe in what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. So, like I said, it's only a matter of time before we see more of you.
I appreciate that.
All right. You take care.